So chapter 6 is a study of percents, and we're going to learn the meaning of percent and also solve problems related to percent. So the word percent is, if you break it down, it would be percent per 100. So if I say 25%, that is the same as saying 25 parts out of 100. So it is equivalent to a fraction 25 over 100. So if there are 50 people in a room, 20 are men and 30 are women. So let's first look at men. What fraction of the room is men? So it would be 20 out of a total of 50 are men. So that is equal to a fraction 20 out of 50. That is the fraction of the room that is men. But if we want to convert it to a percent, we're going to look at an equivalent form. So it's like saying if 20 out of every 50 people are men, then 40 out of every 100 are men. So that is the same as 40%. 40 over 100 is 40%. So 40% of the room is men. Now let's look at the women. 30 out of the 50 are women. So the fraction of women in the room is 30 out of 50, 30 over 50, or 3/5 of the room is women. Now, if we want to convert this to a percent, we're going to think about this and say if 30 parts out of 50 are women, that would be equivalent to saying that 60 parts out of 100 are women. So that would be 60%. So 60 out of 100. So 30 out of every 50 people are women is this equivalent to saying 60 out of every 100 people are women. So that would be 60%. Now let's look at the next one. So here we have a total of 100 students. 20 out of the 100 students are math majors. So 20% are math majors. 60 out of every 100 students are science majors. So that's 60% are science majors. The percent of humanities majors are 20 out of a total of 100. So that's the same as 20%. So let's look at this. We use percents on a regular basis, and one of the examples is tipping. So if we want to pay 10% tip and your total comes up to $35, approximately or sometimes even exactly can be calculated how much would you pay as a tip. So 10% of 35 is the same as 10 over 100 of 35, which is the same as 1/10 of 35. And we've seen that division by 10 is simply shifting the decimal point, which is at the end for a whole number, one place value to the left, which makes it a 3.5, and 3.5 is $3.50. So if you have to pay 10%, then that would be $3.50. Now calculating a 20% tip is simply doubling this amount. So if it's $3.50 for $35, and that is a 10% tip, doubling that would make it 50 plus 50, 250 cents make 100 cents, so that's $1, and 3 plus 3 is 6, so it's a total of $7. Now if we have to pay a 15%, So that would be $3.50, and in addition you're going to pay not double but only half of $3.50. So you're not going to pay 20%, which is the double, but you're going to pay half of $3.50, which makes it a 15%. So $3.50 plus half of $3.50. So that would be half of $3 is $1.50 plus half of 50 cents is 25 cents. So that makes it $1.75. And that makes it a total of $5.25. So we have a grid here. The grid is 10 by 10, 10 rows and 10 columns. So there are a total of 100 squares in this grid. And the question says, what percent of the following grid is shaded? So you just have to count how many squares are shaded. So there's that, just don't double count anything. So 10 here and 10 here, so that's 20, and it's not all of 10 but only 8, so that's 10 plus 10 plus 8 squares shaded, so that's 28 out of a total of 100 squares. So this is 28% of the total that is shaded. Now we're going to look at, and we've seen a little bit of this earlier, how do we convert percents to fractions? We've seen that percents are just a different way of writing fractions. So what would 32% look like? 32, and the word percent means out of 100. So 32% is the same as the fraction 32 over 100, except that we're going to reduce it to the lowest terms. So what are we doing here? We're changing percents to a fraction. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 25 is 100. So the reduced fraction is 8 over 25. 90%. Just think about what percent means. What are we doing here again? We're changing a percent to a fraction. 90 per, so the word per is divided by 100. So this would be 9 over 10 when it's reduced to the lowest terms. 9 times 10 over 10 times 10. We cancel the tens and we get 9 over 10. Now notice that anything less than 100% would be a proper fraction. Now notice this is over 100%. It's 100% and more. So that would be 175 over 100. So remember that this is an improper fraction, but we're going to leave it as a fraction after simplification. Now, if a number ends with 0, 0, 25, 50, or 75, we know it is divisible by 25. I always think in terms of quarters. If we have 175, then I think of it as $1.75, and I know how many quarters are in $1.25. So we have 4 in a dollar plus 3 more, so that is a total of 7 quarters. In 100 cents, there are 4 quarters. You cancel the common factors and we have an improper fraction, 7/4. So we get a proper fraction when the percent is less than 100%, and we get an improper fraction when the percentage is greater than 100%. So let's look at the next one. 0.06 per 100. Now remember, we have to convert it to a fraction. We're almost there, but a fraction is a whole number over a whole number. If there are any decimal numbers, we have to get rid of it. And in this case, the only way I can get rid of the decimal in the numerator is shifting the decimal point 2 places to the right, but that would mean I need to multiply it with 100. Whatever I do to the numerator, I have to do the exact same thing to the denominator. So I have 0.06 times 100 is a 6 after I've shifted the decimal point 2 places to the right, and the denominator is 100 times 100, which is 10,000. So 6 divided by 10,000. So this is 2 times 3. Half of 10,000 is 5,000. So it would be 2 times 5,000, and that is equal to 3 over 5,000. Now 0% is 0 over 100, which is really just a 0. 100%, if I had to convert it to a fraction, would be 100 over 100. And that is equal to a 1. So changing any percent, let's say 3%, to a fraction. So always think about what you're doing. You want to change it to a fraction. So read it carefully. It's 3 per 100, and that is the fraction associated with the percent.